I invite the member for Chilliwack North to lead the House in prayer or reflection.
Father God, through your Son Jesus, Lord, we know that your blessings are meaningful and important throughout history. You blessed so many in their ministries: Noah, Moses, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to name just a few. So to that end, we ask your blessing on this House to all the members, for which I use your own words from Numbers 6:24 to 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm looking up in the gallery and I see a special guest who's here with us today. Teresa Scambler has worked for government in one way or another since 1992. And tomorrow is her last day in the Legislature. She's been a public servant. She worked for many ministries, Ministry of Forests, the then Ministry of Aboriginal Affairs. She was in the Premier's office. She has been working for the NDP caucus since 2007 through many, many opposition years. My office was directly across from her desk. And on day one, she reminded me of my obligation to keep my door open so that she had good airflow. I knew immediately who was running the office, Honourable Speaker. She has dedicated her professional career to the people of British Columbia. I want to thank her and her family for sharing her with us. She has, for the last few years, been running events for the Deputy Speaker's office through the Legislative Assembly, many, many different groups, community groups coming through, getting access to MLAs. We would not be where we are today without her incredible efforts. Would the House please join me in thanking Teresa for working for the people of British Columbia for so long, so effectively, and wish her welcome retirement.
Member for Langley Abbotsford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a special someone here in the gallery today, my daughter, Adriana. It's her 5th birthday. She was born 5 years ago, right when the whole pandemic was starting, and she's been a shining light for me and my family. And I know a lot of you on the other side, when you get home, you see the little ones with the big smiles. It just warms up your heart. It doesn't matter what the day is, how down you are, it just brightens up your day, and I would like you to give her a warm welcome with a happy birthday.
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. Joining us in the House today is Mike Lowe, the Director of Partner Engagement at the Vancouver Island Health Authority. And a lot of Mike's work involves dealing with constituency offices around the Vancouver Island Health Authority region, and he makes sure that people have the information and resources needed to support their constituents. And I want to thank him for his work and support. And would the House please join me in making him feel very welcome today.
Member for Kelowna Mission.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to welcome to the House an old friend, Parksville City Councillor Joel Grenz, who I met 20 years ago when both of us were way cooler. I was in an indie rock band, and he was playing guitar in a rock band called A Sheep at the Wheel. Alongside Joel is Councillor Sean Wood, who sits on the Regional District of Nanaimo Board, in addition to his duties in Parksville. Please make them both feel very welcome.
Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm grateful to have several members of the BC Parks Foundation joining us today in the gallery. We have Ross Beattie, Board Chair, Andrew Day, CEO, Jenny McCaffrey, Vice President, Health and Education, Kate Lassou, Vice President of Programs, Karen Lewis, Vice President Conservation, Cohen Bradley, Director of Indigenous Initiatives, and Sid Vanaski, Community Projects Manager. I'm excited that we will be joining them for lunch later today and look forward to talking about the great work that they do to protect and conserve our beautiful province, making sure everyone can enjoy our wonderful BC parks and protected areas now and into the future. Can the House please make them feel welcome?
Member for Langley Walnut Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the House today is my fiancé, Lawrence, the best man I know. Now, he's here from California, and to quote the Premier at the Invictus Games, our countries are having a moment. But rest assured, in our House, things are very peaceful, if not full of interesting conversations and perspectives. So if you see him in the precinct today, if you can be extra kind, extra hospitable, extra Canadian, in September, I would like to import him tariff-free. Thank you.
Member for Victoria Swan Lake.
Speaker, joining us in the gallery today are representatives from the Victoria Brain Injury Society, Executive Director Pam Pruitt and Marketing Communications Specialist Anthony Wheeler. The Society does incredible work to increase community awareness and reduce harmful stigma, providing support, education, advocacy, and housing assistance to brain injury survivors and their families. The Minister of Forests and I had the opportunity to attend their annual gala recently, where they raised an incredible $128,000 to support their vital mission. Please join me in making them feel very welcome.
Member for Surrey White Rock.
Speaker, I just want to echo the introduction done by the Minister of Parks. We had a great breakfast this morning with the fine folks at the BC Parks Foundation, so I want to give them a warm welcome and look forward to continuing to work with them in the future.
Member for Esquimalt Colwood. Member?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to give a shout out in the House. The Victoria Royals, our WHL team, have made it on to the second round of playoffs. And as a past billet mom and as and many billet parents within my riding with Esquimalt Colwood, I want to thank the people who support these young men to get where they need to be every day, and wish them good luck against Spokane on this upcoming Sunday.
Member for North Vancouver Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, somewhere on the precinct, but not quite here, is a group of grade 11 students and their teacher, Brian, from the Performance Learning Program at Seacove Secondary School in North Vancouver. In this innovative and rigorous program, students and teachers strive to connect classroom studies with experiences beyond the school walls. The group that is with us today has come to Victoria for study and dialogue related to their learning about reconciliation with Indigenous people in BC. I ask that this House make them feel very welcome indeed, and I'll be waving vigorously when they get here.
Member for Ladysmith Oceanside.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm going to echo the introduction by the member from Kelowna Mission, the two councillors in the House from the City of Parksville, which is actually in my riding, Sean Wood and Joel Grenz, who I met during the campaign, actually before the campaign, soon after I was nominated. The City of Parksville councillors showed their great service to their community by introducing themselves to me within days of getting the nomination and finding out how I was going to make things better for the City of Parksville. They will be in the House and around the precinct today. Please, if you see them, thank them for their service. It's a very, very tough job to be a local government council member. Would the members please help me make them feel welcome today?
Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, it is, of course, Tourism Week. We can also make it Tourism Month, Tourism Year, Tourism Decade. But I get ahead of myself. I'm excited to introduce to the House the Chair of the Tourism Industry Association of BC, JJ Belanger, also the General Manager for the beautiful Crystal Cove in Tofino, and Paula Amos with Indigenous Tourism BC. She's the Chief Marketing Officer and the Development Officer. And so they are in the House. They're joining us for Tourism Week. And I would ask the House to please make them very, very welcome.
Madam Clerk.
Introduction of bills.
Member for Vancouver Colchina.
Honourable Speaker, I move that a bill entitled Tax Reduction and Tariff Defence Act, of which notice has been given in my name on the order paper, be introduced and read a first time now. Mr. Speaker, this is a critical moment in British Columbia's history. We are a great province built by hard-working people. Our abundant natural resources are the envy of the world. But the world is changing. These are perilous times. Tariffs, duties, and trade disputes are increasing costs and uncertainty. Individuals and businesses need their government to defend them now. Mr. Speaker, this bill will do just that. This bill protects British Columbia from the effects of tariffs, disputes with adversarial jurisdictions, and other economic challenges by, 1, providing immediate and significant income tax relief to every British Columbian, and 2, addressing procedural obstacles to the development of natural resources, the building of public infrastructure, and economic advancement within British Columbia. I urge the members of this House to vote in favour of the introduction of this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member, the question is first reading of the bill. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Member.
Honourable Speaker, I move that the bill be placed on the orders of the day for second reading at the next sitting of the House after today.
You have heard the question. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Madam Clerk. Member for Burnaby South Metro Town.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move that a bill intituled Korean Heritage Month Act, of which notice has been given in my name to the order paper, be introduced and read for a first time now. This bill would establish the month of October as the Korean Heritage Month in British Columbia. The Korean community has had a significant impact on our province. There are more than 72,000 people of Korean descent in BC. In 1998, with the opening of Hannam Supermarket, their area now known as Koreatown began to take shape along North Road in Burkutlam. It is now a thriving center for business, culture, and community. And October is chosen as Korean Heritage Month because October 3rd marks National Foundation Day. This day celebrates the legendary formation of the first Korean state, Gojeseon. It is traditionally considered the date of the creation of the modern Korean state. So today, BC and Korea enjoy a strong relationship and extensive business connections. In 2023, Premier Eby signed an enhanced action plan agreement with our sister province, Gyeonggi Province, to strengthen cooperation on clean tech and clean energy to address climate change. As the Parliamentary Secretary for Asia-Pacific Trade, I recognize that it is now more important than ever that we nurture these relationships. And this bill would provide all British Columbians with an opportunity to celebrate the achievements and contributions of Korean Canadians and strengthen the bond of friendship between BC and Korea.
Member, the question is first reading of the bill. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Member.
Honourable Speaker, I move that the bill be placed in the order of the day for second reading for the first sitting of the House after today.
You heard the question. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Madam Clerk.
Statements by members.
Member for Chilliwack, Cultus Lake.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate and talk about the incredible mental health services offered by the Chilliwack Youth Health Centre. The centre has been serving the community of Chilliwack for over 10 years, providing free counselling, medical appointments, and social services to youth aged 12 to 26. The organization is a pillar of hope and support for our children, province, and future. In 2023, the centre served 3,750 youth, with 22% identifying as Indigenous. The Chilliwack Youth Health Centre offers key experience as a learning centre for interns ranging from the certificate level to the doctorate level, earning them recognition from the Health Standards Organization for their impactful intern-led supervision model. The centre meets youth where they're at, with 3 locations in Chilliwack, working in conjunction with partner organizations and Davis Transition Services, the YMCA, and BC Schizophrenia, as well as counsellors working in 6 different locations. The Chilliwack Youth Health Centre is wide-reaching. I'm so proud of their hard work, dedication, and compassion. It's important that our youth know we care about them and that we are all here to support them. The Chilliwack Youth Health Centre has been operating on a shoestring budget, and they have dreams of expanding their critical work. Unfortunately, they find themselves in a difficult position. The amount they need is the difference between maintaining operations at their current level or forcing them to scale down the services that many youth in our province rely on, and potentially they face the risk of closure. It is my hope that others in this Assembly recognize the important work taking place by the Chilliwack Youth Health Centre and will join me in finding a meaningful solution for all of the young people in Chilliwack. Thank you.
Member for Victoria Swan Lake.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. As the sun sets this Saturday, Jewish communities in British Columbia and around the world will gather around the Seder table in observance of Passover. During this special meal that includes symbolic foods, prayer, and song, families and friends will tell the story of the Israelites' journey from slavery to freedom in Egypt. The Haggadah, the book used to guide the Seder, contains the directive that in every generation, a person is obligated to see themselves as if they left Egypt. This powerful idea is explored by writer Dara Horn, best known for her volume of essays, People Love Dead Jews, in her newest book, a graphic novel with another provocative title, One Little Goat, A Passover Catastrophe. A young boy escapes a seemingly endless Passover Seder in the company of a talking goat who takes him through space and time to Seder tables of historically iconic Jews, including Sigmund Freud, the 16th century philanthropist Donya Gracianasi, and the Talmudic tag team known as Rav and Shmuel. Horn captures something profound felt at Passover, the understanding that the same retelling of Exodus is being carried out by Jews across the world, and that this retelling has taken place year after year across millennia. Current events inevitably shape discussions about freedom that take place around the Seder table, often late into the night. It is impossible to avoid the history of the persecution of Jewish people, which continues to this day. But this is only part of the Passover story, which at its heart is about how Jews lived and how they survived. It is a story of remarkable resilience and of enduring tradition and values passed from generation to generation. I wish all those who observe a happy and meaningful Passover. Hag Pesach Sameach.
Member for Langley Abbotsford.
Honourable Speaker, I rise today to recognize an extraordinary event that continues to make a lasting impact on the healthcare in the community of Langley, the Giving Hearts Gala. This year marked the 6th annual gala held on April 4th at the Mirage Banquet Hall, organized by the Langley Community Health Foundation. The event brought together over 250 generous attendees and community-minded individuals, raising an incredible $331,000 in a single night. These funds support the newly established Guru Nanak Endowment Fund, which aims to raise $1 million over the next 5 years to meet urgent needs at Langley Memorial Hospital. Inspired by the spirit of selfless service, this fund will provide long-term, reliable resources to improve critical care for patients in our growing region. Since the inception of 2019, the Giving Hearts Gala has now raised over $1.8 million. A truly remarkable contribution. The generosities help fund projects like the Martini Family Emergency Center, mobility equipment for seniors, and specialized bassinets for newborns. I'd also like to thank Peter Fassbender, Heather Scott from the Langley Community Health Foundation. They do some incredible work, and also Balraj Mann and Manjeet Gill, who serve on the board for the Giving Hearts Gala. As the MLA for Langley Abbotsford, I am proud to acknowledge their outstanding contributions, which will benefit residents across our riding for generations to come. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Member for Cowichan Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is Indigenous Nursing Day, and a day for us to acknowledge and honor and celebrate Indigenous nurses for their incredible contributions to healthcare and their tireless dedication to the people they care for. We recognize the unique knowledge, experience, and determination of generations of Indigenous nurses who have advanced Indigenous health care. Indigenous nurses are a critical part of our healthcare system, providing cultural, safe, and appropriate care to people in communities across the province. The invaluable contributions they make are essential to the further development of improving the quality of life and well-being and healthy outcomes for Indigenous peoples in BC. This day is an opportunity to recognize the work we're doing to dismantle harmful colonial practices and systems. We continue to move forward on commitment to provide Indigenous-specific, cultural, safe, trauma-informed practices, anti-racism in our healthcare system, upholding with the In Plain Sight report and BC's health human resources strategies. It is with deep gratitude that we celebrate the achievements and contributions of Indigenous nurses. And I want to stop out to shout out to my niece, Rebecca White, who is in her fourth year of practicum and will be placed next week. This is a day for Indigenous nurses and their allies to come together and to preserve the cultural integrity and traditional knowledge they hold, and recognize their tenacity, courage, and activism to meet the healthcare needs of Indigenous peoples. Thank you to all the Indigenous nurses for their amazing work and for ensuring access to integral, trauma-informed, culturally safe healthcare for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Third-party House Leader.
Honourable Speaker, before I begin, I want to acknowledge that we're meeting today on the ancestral, traditional, and stolen territory of the Algonquin-speaking peoples. On the first day of this legislative session, Songhees Elder Marianne Thomas opened this House in a good way, also with some uncomfortable truths about our shared history. On that day, Marianne Thomas relayed how she was sent to residential school. She said her long hair was cut short. She was hit. Her head was put in a toilet bowl. She said she shares these stories because, quote, I'm speaking for the ones that don't have a voice. We don't record and study history because it's pleasant. We keep history alive because it helps us understand each other. As members of this legislative assembly, it is our responsibility to be leaders and ambassadors for the right way of doing things, to demonstrate through our words and our actions ESOC, one of Hawaiian First Nations sacred principles, which means conducting yourself with utmost respect. This big house in which we do our work has meaning collectively because we give it meaning. Every day we uphold a shared set of values. Every day we stand against racism, discrimination, denialism, and the re-victimization of residential school survivors. Our symbols and traditions give this place power and a presence in the lives of all British Columbians. And it is this responsibility of every single one of us that we hold each other accountable to uphold our shared values every single day of every year. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Member for Vernon Lumbee.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise today with a full heart to shine a light on a truly special event happening in Vernon, an evening in Paris. The Upper Room Mission's annual spring fundraising gala taking place this Saturday at our beloved Coldstream Hall, which our government proudly funded along with 84 childcare spaces. This isn't just a night of elegance and charm, it's a celebration of compassion, dignity, and community. It is an opportunity for us to come together. not just to enjoy the romance of the evening, but also to uplift the lives of those who need the most. Since 1980, the Upper Room Mission has stood as a pillar of hope for Vernon and North Okanagan. Whether it's a hot meal, a clean shower, warm clothing, or listening ear, the mission meets people where they are. Without judgment, with open hearts, their work reminds us that kindness is not just a gesture, but it is a lifeline. Beyond the essential services, Upper Room Mission Boutique Thrift Store beautifully weaves in sustainability with generosity, proving that even a small purchase can be an act of profound giving. I have had small privilege to support the mission in small ways, like dropping off water and electrolyte drinks during the scorching hot summers, connecting with remarkable team, staff, and volunteers, and witnessing the strength and courage of those they serve. Those moments have left a lasting impact on me, reminding me that true community is built not just by what we say, but by how we show up for one another. To Jacko Devin, the Executive Director, and every single team member and volunteers, thank you. Your passion and perseverance are changing lives. To the donors who make this work possible, your generosity echoes far beyond what you can see. I invite you to be a part of this movement. Visit upperroommission.ca and join us this Saturday, April 12th, an evening in Paris. Let's celebrate, let's give, and let's continue to lift each other. Mercy.
Member for North Vancouver Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I seek leave to make a reintroduction.
Is leave granted? Please
Thank
proceed.
you so much. The grade 11 students that I referenced earlier are now in the gallery from Seacoast School, and I would like the House to make them very welcome.
Madam Clerk.
Oral questions by members.
Member for Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, will the Minister for Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport please name the MLAs that he was referring to when he stated that he was asked directly for World Cup tickets?
Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, conversations happen in the hallways with new members, and I don't have any intent of sharing their names and embarrassing them in front of the House. At that stage, it's done. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What the Minister said on April 8th was a serious allegation. We have talked to all members on our side of this House regarding the Minister of Tourism stating that he was asked directly for World Cup tickets. He said on April 8th, and I quote, "I know not everybody on that side maybe supports soccer, but I do know some of the members were asking me for tickets. I don't have any tickets to give you, members. You'll have to buy them just like the general public when they become available." So, Mr. Speaker, that leads us to two conclusions. Either this minister has chosen to mislead the House, or those ticket requests are coming from his own caucus. Which is it?
Members, please continue.
Or the minister can get up in this House and name the MLAs that have asked him directly for World Cup tickets.
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, I have private conversations with members from all parties, but, I don't want to expose the new members. On that side, I would say, and maybe the other option that the member didn't consider is his caucus members haven't been telling him the full truth.
Member for Skeena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Anti-Semitism is not a joke. Racism is never acceptable, and it must never be normalized. A newly elected Vancouver councillor has made deeply troubling statements, including invoking anti-Semitic tropes and mocking Jewish identity by referring to a secret cabal of Jews. In response to someone saying they wanted the destruction of both Israel and Canada, he replied, quote, "Me too, son, me too," end quote. Will the Premier finally step up as a leader and repudiate Sean Orr for these vile anti-Semitic statements?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and I want to thank the member for the question as well as the statement that was made yesterday in this House. We know that the comments, I'm hearing from people directly, that the comments made by this new councillor have caused real hurt and pain for many within the Jewish community. And the community has been feeling a lot of fear over the last few years, in particular with the rise of anti-Semitism related incidences. We, of course, stand against hate and racism and anti-Semitism. We've said that many times. The member will perhaps not know, but we created an independent Human Rights Commission in British Columbia to address that very core question. Work closely with the Jewish community on that. Honourable Speaker, I don't know why this needs to be heckled. This is an important topic. So we're going to continue to work with the community, and of course this councillor will have to respond and address the harms that his comments have made, but I'll leave it to that councillor to do that.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With all due respect, my question was for the Premier, and my question was about repudiating those specific comments. Sean Orr isn't the only person who has an anti-Semitism problem. As we learned from former NDP Cabinet Minister Selina Robinson, the NDP and the BC Public Service has a systemic anti-Semitism problem. Members of the British Columbia Jewish community should not be singled out for hate by their government or their elected representatives. What actions is this Premier taking to root out systemic anti-Semitism identified by his former minister, besides just setting up a hotline?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have stood up in unprecedented ways to stop the rise of anti-Semitism and hate in this province. That goes as far as to putting direct resources into community members, setting up safe zones around schools, launching a racist incident helpline, which has received more than 600 calls where people can call and receive resources and referrals when they're experiencing hate. We all have to stand together to condemn the rise of anti-Semitism in this province and in the world. We stand with the Jewish people in fighting against anti-Semitism. I'll continue to do everything I can as Attorney General to make sure our systems are tooled up to respond and continue to meet with the community to make sure that we are responding to their needs. Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious issue and it's something we take very seriously.
Member for Prince George North Caribou.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This year, British Columbia received...
sorry, member, I skipped again. Third party, House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The report on reforming the Police Act recommended improving the province's response to mental health emergencies. When a crisis occurs, we must use an appropriate response. A mental health crisis does not often fit into the existing options of police, fire, or ambulance. Adding a mental health option to 911, as recommended by the Police Act Committee and the Canadian Mental Health Association, would vastly improve well-being and safety of British Columbians. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, will you create a fourth option to 911 that is dedicated to responding to mental health calls with the appropriate level of response?
Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for his question. He is correct. The Committee to Reform the Police Act has examined at length an option when you call 911 for mental health to be identified. That is something that currently is underway, and in the near future I expect that there will be a determination made that will satisfy his question. Thank you.
Member supplemental.
Since the year 2000, there have been more than 800 deaths in Canada due to police use of force. Black and Indigenous people comprise less than 9% of Canada's population, but account for over 27% of police-involved shooting deaths. Many of these victims were experiencing a mental health crisis at the time of their deaths. These deaths were preventable. Peer-assisted care teams have had a demonstrable impact in the communities where they are operational, showing that there is a path forward for non-police emergency response. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Minister of Public Safety, when will your government modernize emergency mental health response by expanding peer-assisted care teams across the province? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member opposite raises an important question about policing and how it is enacted in this province. On the committee to reform the Police Act, one of the things we looked at was various response that are not police-related, things that very clearly from the outset do not have their base in criminal activity. You will be pleased to know, member, that the conditions that govern police as it relates to responding to persons with mental illnesses have been adjusted all across the country, so that one of the things they consider first is whether or not the base is a mental health issue. Now, various jurisdictions across the country, including in British Columbia, have made allowances and do have today peer-assisted teams at work throughout the province.
Member for Peace River North.
Mr. Speaker, my fellow MLA did quite the little ditty on Tuesday in regard to our failing infrastructure system. And it rang true. He sang about the Taylor Bridge falling down. The actual name of this bridge is the Peace River Bridge. And did you know the original bridge did fall down in 1957? Massive payloads go over this bridge every day as we move our vast resources to support the large wealth and revenue of British Columbia. We need this critical bridge to be replaced with a new one that is capable of handling British Columbia's essential trade goods. The people of my region have been promised a new bridge for over 20 years, and still we have holes in the bridge decking over and over and over. The bridge has been fixed so many times that it's probably more weld repair than original steel. Mr. Speaker, can the minister finally give a deadline for the constituents of Peace Region of when the construction of a new 4-lane bridge will begin before history repeats itself and then it could be named the Farney Bridge is falling down?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank the member for the question. I can tell him that we recognize, obviously, the importance of the Taylor Bridge in terms of its importance to his region of the province, but indeed the province's transportation system as a whole. I can tell him that there is work underway in terms of what the long-term options are around the bridge. There is significant work in terms of looking at 3 phases in terms of the structural assessment around the current bridge. There will be additional work being done later this year. I have met with the member from Peace River South, for example, who's also come to see me to talk about the importance of the bridge. The previous MLA for North Peace River has also been working with me in the past in terms of how this bridge needs to be replaced. What we're ensuring is that it continues to be safe, is inspected on a regular basis, but the work that's required so that we can get to the point deciding what the best option in terms of replacing it is and what it should look at is currently underway.
Member, before a member asks the supplemental question, just a reminder, no names to be said in the question. Member, supplemental.
My apologies, Mr. Speaker. I think when it comes to the song that I would pick, it would probably be Garth Brooks' I Have Friends in Lowly Places. Because taxpayers are being driven into poverty. We need to actually start doing the major infrastructure upgrades necessary for our province to flourish and become self-sufficient and get rid of the trade barriers across Canada. This has been This has to be done for BC to go forward, not focus on pulling Kentucky bourbon off of the shelves. Mr. Speaker, will the Premier commit that if tolls, fees, levies are applied, that the money will be used to pay for critical and vital infrastructure upgrades across British Columbia and not just be used as a slush fund of broken promises to British Columbians?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I can tell the Honourable Member that when it comes to infrastructure in this province, this government is currently ending more than $15 billion in terms of transportation infrastructure across British Columbia. The member talks about the Peace River. We recognize the importance of that. More than $188 million has been invested since we have been in power. $29 million has gone into ensuring that the planning work and work that needs to take place around the Taylor Bridge has been underway. There will be further announcements on that in the not too distant future, in the near future, in fact. We know the importance of the Taylor Bridge to British Columbia. It will need to be replaced. What I can tell you right now is we are starting the work to ensure that when it's replaced, it meets the needs of a growing province. It meets the needs of a province that wants to diversify trade. It meets the need of a province that is not just British Columbia, but 10 provinces and 3 territories, and that's what this government is committed to doing.
Member for Prince George North Caribou.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Glad to be back again. This year, British Columbia received an F for poverty, an F for housing, and an F for government support from Food Banks Canada. Mr. Speaker, why does the Minister of Poverty Reduction continue to claim progress when every independent measure shows her ministry is failing across the board?
Minister of Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are very concerned about the impacts of global inflation and now the extra threat of uncertainty created by tariffs and the impacts on people. We all hear and feel the pressures on people every day. What I will say, though, is that there was no poverty reduction strategy until this government came into place. Social assistance rates were frozen for a decade. When the Leader of the Opposition was sitting at the cabinet table, we've increased rates 5 times. We've increased minimum wage 7 times after that. When the Leader of the Opposition was in government, his Minister of Social Development removed the disability bus pass from people with disabilities. We returned it, and the list goes on. We have got a lot more work to do, but we'll hold our record up against the Leader of the Opposition's any day.
Member for Delta South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, after 32 years in his home, Ken, an 86-year-old South Delta constituent of mine, was evicted, given 5 minutes to gather what he could, and left to sleep in his car. He was denied income assistance because he owned the vehicle he was forced to sleep in. This is how BC treats its seniors after a lifetime of work and contributing to this economy. How does the Social Development Minister justify a system that punishes struggling seniors and abandoning them completely?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That sounds like a terrible story, and I hope that the member will bring that directly to my office so we can find out what happened. After the age of 65, income supports are delivered by the federal government, not the provincial government, but nevertheless, we are very concerned about seniors' poverty. We did double the seniors.
Members. Member.
Excellent.
Member.
Well, I'm hearing the member yell that he has sent it to my office, and I will get back to him this afternoon with what we found. But again, I'll say we are working, we have targeted poverty reduction, and we've been pushing the federal government to add income supports. And when the federal government supports for seniors are inadequate, then we are doing our best to provide emergency supports for seniors. If any members have got challenges, please do bring them to my office, and we'll work together.
Thank you. Member for Kelowna Centre.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Low-income British Columbians are struggling to make ends meet, and the actions of this NDP government are only making things worse. Income assistance in BC is $935 a month. Rentals.ca reported this morning that the average rent for a one-bedroom in Vancouver is over $2,500. How does this Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction expect anyone to survive when government support doesn't even cover half the rent?
Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We all feel in every community the impact of global inflation and absolutely the impact of housing costs on people across every income level. That's why we've been investing so much, both in building out affordable housing and also just, for example, this week with the support of the Green Party, expanding the SAFER and RAP grants to be able to apply rent relief to people in particularly high markets. We have increased the shelter rate twice already under this government for exactly that reason. And importantly, because although we've increased income assistance rates 5 times, where the Leader of the Opposition had frozen, his government had frozen rates for a decade, we also recognize that income assistance alone is not enough for people to work on. That's why to live on. And that's why we've been working so hard to increase the earnings threshold so that people can add employment income, and through the work of our Work BC centres and partners across the province, supporting people who have been alienated from the workforce so that they can add earned employment income along with income assistance.
Member for Abbotsford West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rather than supporting people living with disabilities, this NDP government is actively holding them back. The income cutoff for disability assistance is a mere $19,440 for a household per year. 2 people expected to survive on less than $1,620 a month during affordability crisis. Mr. Speaker, does the Minister of Social Development seriously believe that's enough for 2 people with disabilities to live in British Columbia with dignity?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Absolutely, the work that we have been doing as a government to build supports for people living with disabilities has been at the centre of our work. That's why we brought in British Columbia's first accessibility legislation. That's why we have increased rates for people with disabilities, again, which the previous BC Liberal government, the Leader of the Opposition, froze. Well, that's why we have made 5 increases to disability rates since 2017, the largest by any government in British Columbia ever. Since 2017, the rate for a single person is up 74% from where we found it when we formed government. And this year, our budget invests another $1.6 billion over 3 years to support expanded income disability assistance. There is more for us to do, but our record of investing people is clear, and we will continue to do that work.
Member for Abbotsford Mission.
Mr. Speaker, children deserve our love, our support, and our protection. But in British Columbia, while children make up just 15% of the population, they are 30% of food bank users. Can this social development minister explain how a government that claims to care about kids allows 1 in 3 food bank users to be a hungry child?
Minister of Social Development. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What we hear is a deep need for people to have access to nutritious, affordable food wherever they are. We absolutely have front-ended our investments into making sure that children get their very best start. Our work that we funded directly through the United Way to establish food hubs in communities in all corners of the province has been a very important part of that work, knitting together community response. And especially encouraging is when I see the work of my ministry linking into the work with the Ministry of Education and Childcare for the first time for our province to have invested in school food programs so that kids start their day with a good meal. It's foundational. It's work that has never been funded at this rate by any provincial government in BC, and the need has never been deeper.
Member for Columbia River Revelstoke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the CEO at Community Living BC gets a $12,000 vehicle allowance on top of a $300,000 salary. All the while, families across BC are $200 away from not being able to pay their bills every month. Mr. Speaker, why is the Poverty Reduction Minister supporting luxury lifestyles while food banks across this province are maxed out?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Which way to take the member's question? The investments that we have made in expanding supports for adults with developmental disabilities who are served by the Crown Agency, Community Living BC, expanded again this year because people with disabilities are living longer. That is a good news story, but the caseload has increased. The focus, absolutely, 97% of the budget goes directly to people that need supports, and we hear from families and adults with developmental disabilities that they need more support. And that's why, again, this year's budget has expanded by an additional $380 million over 3 years to support the increase in clients supported by Community Living BC. We will continue to do that work.
Member for Langley Willowbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 67% of youth aging out of care go to bed hungry. 90% can't afford 3 meals a day. How does this social development minister explain a system that lets young people enter adulthood starving and in debt after growing up in government care?
Minister of Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The problem that the member names is exactly why British Columbia's first homelessness strategy invested very first in young people leaving foster care. I remember so clearly the words of Premier Horgan saying, if children were removed from their families, it's our government's responsibility to set them up in the very best way. That's why we've extended the age of majority for children to age 26. I'm looking at the minister, and that's exactly so that we can bridge in those ways so that young people have the very best start. They have $600 more every month to go towards rent. This is the SAGE program. And that gives us an opportunity for kids leaving foster care to get connected with the nutritious food, with the income supports, with free tuition that we've made available at every college and university. This is all work to have young people exiting care be on their very best step and make life more affordable for them.
Member for Boundaries Milkameen.
Indigenous people in BC face poverty rates nearly twice the provincial average. It's even higher for children in our rural communities. When will this Minister of Poverty Reduction start providing the basic supports Indigenous families need to survive?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When we asked people across British Columbia, as we rebuilt our poverty reduction strategy, which was tabled in this House this year, we heard from people all across the province, 70% of whom had direct lived experience with poverty. A significant number were Indigenous people, and we did a completely separate Indigenous stream. The advice that we got is built directly into our poverty reduction strategy. We're working with partners, meeting with leaders from across nations, from every First Nation to talk about how between federal income support delivery and off-reserve, off-nation income support delivery, which comes from the province, how we can work together to get the very best connection. We're absolutely concerned and working together with First Nations leadership about how we can build systems that are culturally informed and helping people change their lives for the better.
House Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I heard the Minister reflect that they've launched a poverty reduction strategy in 2019. But, Mr. Speaker, this government has had 8 years, 3 mandates, 2 premiers, and all we've seen is a record number of food bank users across the province of British Columbia. We're talking about a ministry that gives a CEO $12,000 car allowance. Wow. When I have a constituent, Mary Jean, I hope that you're watching, who suffered a stroke at 53 and was forced to return to work in excruciating pain just to survive. She lives with her adult disabled son who cannot work, and together they rely on 2 next to nothing disability checks. Very careful, of course, for her hours as to not suffer clawbacks on her limited income. Since then, we've seen all of the members on this side, and I'm sure the House could agree, that food insecurity and housing has become unaffordable.
Question, member.
My question is the same question that Mary Jean came to ask me in my office. And that is, what is the purpose of government if it cannot support its most vulnerable? And do she and her son have the human right to live?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The people that are at the heart of this work, just as the member cites, this is exactly why we're in government, to build the systems that combat the impacts.
Member.
Yeah, they're heckling. I haven't even said 3 words already. So this is exactly what motivates our government. We see across the globe the impacts of global inflation. We see people in every corner of the province, at every corner of...
Members, let her conclude.
Shall I wait for the members to stop heckling, Mr. Speaker? Oh, for goodness sakes. Okay, the member says we haven't taken action. We have increased minimum wage 7 times. We have increased income assistance 74%.
Members.
We have decreased the...
Member will come to order.
We've decreased...
Obviously, the opposition is not interested in listening answers, so let's end the question period. Bell ends the question period. Members, honourable members, on Monday, April 7th, a member for Kamloops Centre raised a question of privilege respecting the ability of the official opposition to scrutinize the 2025-26 budget and main estimates before the House, particularly following the enactment of Bill number 8 and Tichol Carbon Tax Amendment Act 2025 last week. The Minister of Finance requested an opportunity to make representations to the Chair on the matter and did so in the House on Tuesday, April 8th. The Chair thanks the member for Kamloops Centre and Minister of Finance for their submissions. The Chair is now prepared to rule on the matter. It is the role of the Chair to examine submissions made under a question of privilege and to determine on the evidence presented whether a prima facie breach of privilege has occurred. As acknowledged by the member of Kamloops Centre, in considering a question of privilege, the Chair must first assess if the initial criterion has been met, being whether the question was raised at the earliest opportunity. This strict requirement and the inability of the chair to relax it is canvassed in detail in parliamentary practice in British Columbia, 5th edition at pages 401 to 403. In order to satisfy the earliest opportunity criterion, it is the view of the chair that the member for Kamloops Centre had a reasonable opportunity to, at minimum, reserve his right to raise a question of privilege on this matter while he prepared his submission. On this basis, the chair concludes that this criterion has not been met, and it is the ruling of the chair that a prima facie breach of privilege has not occurred. However, the chair wishes to take this opportunity to provide guidance to the House as it relates to some of the matters at hand. The Committee of Supply is tasked with examining requested annual appropriations for each ministry, social office, or other purpose. A final supply act enacted by the legislature thereafter serves as the legal mechanism by which those appropriations are assessed by the government from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. While fiscal forecasts can change, the chair accepts that the decisions before the House and the Committee of Supply in terms of main estimates appropriations being requested by the government have not changed. Expenditures by the government cannot exceed individual vote totals without additional legislative authority. Having reviewed the written submissions, the member for Kamloops Centre and the Minister of Finance disagree with respect to the interpretation of relevant statutory provisions. While that is not a matter for the chair to adjudicate, the chair can appreciate the arguments made by the member for Kamloops Centre and the frustration that members of the House may feel when they are being asked to consider budgetary measures in an ever-changing fiscal environment. The chair trusts and expects that the House and the role in the financial life of the province will be fully respected, and that the government will fulfill its statutory obligations to provide timely updates throughout the fiscal year. Madam Clerk. Member for Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to reserve my right to raise a question of privilege related to comments made earlier today in question period.
Thank you, Member. Minister for Local Governments.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I seek leave to make an introduction.
Is leave granted? Please proceed.
Thank you. Today, I would like to welcome members of the Colville Confederate Tribes and the Ksinayaks Confederacy, Roger Finley, Stephen Carlson, Marty Rapp, Margaret Rosling, and Shelley Boyd to the Legislature. If all members could please make them feel very welcome. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Orders of the day.
Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move that notwithstanding Standing Order 22B, when the House next adjourns, it stands adjourned until 10 a.m. on Monday, April 14th. This is to correct a discrepancy that exists in the standing orders regarding the what used to be a 2-week break and is currently a 1-week break when we get it.
Member, you heard the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. In this chamber, I call continued debate for the estimates of the Ministry of Health. In the Douglas Fir Room, Section 8, continued debate and the estimates of the Ministry of Forests.
Committee Chair.
Good morning, members. We'll call this House back to order, and we will call on the Minister to move the vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Resolved that a sum not exceeding $34,996,928,000 be granted to His Majesty to defray the expenses of the Ministry of Health, Ministry Operations to the 31st of March 2026.
Thank you very much, Minister. Continued questions on the Ministry of Health, recognizing the Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Minister and her team for graciously extending health estimates by a day. I believe I have until we adjourn at around noon. If that's incorrect, please let me know. I'll carry on. Mr. Chair, the change to witnessed consumption for prescribed safer supply is predicted to disconnect many people. We've heard how difficult it can be to show up at a pharmacy, often several times per day, to receive the medications they need. The Provincial Health Officer and the Office of the Chief Coroner of BC have both recommended to reduce barriers to accessing OAT and other life-saving interventions, but the witness consumption model seems to increase barriers. This could push many people to return to a reliance on the toxic street supply. How will the Ministry reduce people's reliance on the poison drug supply and connect them to regulated alternatives?
The Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the member for the question. And I'll start off by stating that the Prescribed Alternatives Program is an important part of an important tool in tackling the impacts of the toxic drug crisis that we are facing. It is one of the tools in the suite of harm reduction approaches, in addition to others, and is important to help keep people alive and people who are facing addictions to this increasingly toxic, illicit drug supply. The Prescribed Alternative Program during COVID, we knew that in order to keep people in access to have access to these medications that are helping to keep them alive, it was important to move to a model that was more flexible so that people could access these medications. We also know, though, that prescribed medications of any kind need to be used by the people for whom they are intended to be used. They needed to be consumed by the people who need them and who are prescribed these alternatives. And that's why we've made the decision to move into a witnessed program where consumption is witnessed by a health professional, and that is part of decreasing the risk of prescribed alternatives going into the wrong hands, places where we don't want to see that take place. We also know that bringing people into close contact with prescribers is an option for them to continue the work in this healthcare relationship, and an opportunity for prescribers to work with their clients, their patients, in helping to titrate or move people away from prescribed alternatives as it is safe to do and into opioid agonist therapy, for example. The most commonly used prescribed alternative medication is hydromorphone, and we know that this is not meeting the needs of all people, and that we need collectively as a healthcare community to be looking at better ways to serve people. Again, as the toxic drug supply changes, as street fentanyl becomes more and more dangerous, we need to be able to adapt and change. We are working with the BCCSU and with clinicians to develop guidance to assist prescribers in this work. And again, this is about finding the right medications to ensure that people's needs are being met. And it's about balancing two very important priorities in public health. One, that we keep people alive as we help them access the treatment and recovery services that they need. And the second, that we ensure that prescribed alternatives are used by the people for whom they are intended, and that we do everything we can to reduce and mitigate the risk of them being diverted into hands that we do not want to see them. So we're going to continue this work. The witnessed consumption currently applies to all new clients. While we do this important work with the BCCSU and clinicians to develop this guidance and move people who are currently using prescribed alternatives into a witnessed consumption model. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Minister. The Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you to the Minister for that answer. Will the Minister work towards evaluating an expanded scope of prescribed alternatives? What work has been done to evaluate the options listed in the Provincial Health Officer's 2024 report, Alternatives to Unregulated Drugs, Another Step in Saving Lives?
The Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you again to the member for the question. And in referencing the report that the Public Health Officer and her office, Dr. Henry, provided, and I want to first acknowledge the importance of that and that government continues to review that and consider the recommendations and has already implemented some of the recommendations from that report, including even just the language that we use. And so describing and calling this program as it should be as prescribed alternatives rather than the former name of Safer Supply to truly indicate that this is about a clinical and appropriate response, medical response to a health issue, and that prescribed alternatives are truly medications, and as I described in my previous answer, that help keep people alive while they can work with their healthcare providers and clinicians to change into other forms of therapy like opioid agonist therapy, and most importantly as well, maintain those human relationships so that they can be connected to treatment and recovery services that are so important. There are a variety of medications already available in the prescribed alternatives program, and this is a very new area of clinical work, and we have to continue to do everything that we can to support clinicians and prescribers, and part of that is collecting and understanding and analyzing the clinical evidence that is out there that will help inform the policy decisions that we are making. And to that end, working again with the BCCSU and clinicians in developing ongoing and updated clinical guidelines, but also the importance of the work of independent evaluations. An independent evaluation by a person who is not wedded to the program and who is able to undertake the kind of thorough and objective analysis that needs to happen. And it is done across the range of approaches to treating people with different diseases, for example. Now, there is a provincial evaluation of the implementation of prescribed alternatives that's underway right now. It is being led by Dr. Bernie Pauly. This work is being done with the Canadian Institute of Substance Use Research, and it will allow for, again, a fuller understanding of the impacts of the program, and including the unintended impacts of diversion, as well as the benefits for people who are on this program. And that work takes time, so we don't expect it to be finished until 2026, because again, this is a new area and it is about following people through time on this program and then undertaking this evaluation. So we're going to continue to do this. We are committed to evidence-based approaches in helping people who are experiencing severe substance use and substance use issues. And again, as we've canvassed in estimates, our government's commitment to building out the full spectrum of supports for people. So beyond harm reduction programs like prescribed alternatives and harm reduction programs of providing the take-home naloxone program, for example, drug checking, overdose prevention services, but also backing up into the prevention work, the work we continue to do with youth and with adults around supporting mental health issues and crises that people experience. And then, of course, the treatment, recovery, and aftercare as we've canvassed throughout estimates. This government has invested more funding into this critical area to address the toxic drug crisis than ever before. We remain committed. There is $500 million of new funding in this year's budget to sustain and expand the programs to support people, and we will continue to move forward with that. I also would love to offer the BC Greens a detailed briefing around the prescribed alternatives program, and really pleased to offer that and ensure that you stay up to date with the developments as they occur. And I really appreciate your compassion and your sincere interest in this and your support for people who, through you, Chair, I really appreciate their support. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions about vaccines. Can the Minister tell us how much funding is allocated towards vaccines for shingles, RSV, and whooping cough in this budget?
The Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'll start off by saying that our government believes in vaccine science and listens to experts when it comes to saving people's lives, and that includes from vaccine-preventable illnesses. The member has asked around funding towards vaccines, and I'll talk largely, and then I'll go into some of the specific examples that he's mentioned. So first of all, for fiscal year 25-26, we are forecasting to spend approximately $35.1 million on infant, early childhood, and school-based immunization programs writ large. This includes the vaccine to prevent whooping cough, or pertussis, and that vaccine, pertussis, is part of the publicly funded immunization program and is valued at $6.1 million. And because I know so many British Columbians are watching, I want to make sure that people understand that this is a vaccine that is given routinely for free at ages 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, and 18 months, at age 4 to 6 years, and again at age 14 to 16. 1 dose of pertussis vaccine is also provided for free in pregnancy to protect newborns who are too young to be immunized themselves. And now I'll talk more about RSV and shingles. The shingles and RSV vaccines aren't currently part of BC's publicly funded immunization program, but we do regularly review these programs to consider changes and additions. One population that does receive assistance are First Nations elders aged 60 years or older, and through the First Nations Health Authority, they are offered the Shingrix vaccination for shingles. There are new RSV vaccines from several different companies that have been approved by Health Canada and recently reviewed by Canada's National Advisory Committee on Immunization. Now, when a new vaccine is approved for use by Health Canada, we look to this committee and our provincial public health and immunization experts to assess and advise whether it should be added to our publicly funded immunization program in BC. And these groups consider a real range of different factors when developing these recommendations. And that includes factors like the burden of illness, vaccine efficacy, the safety, cost effectiveness, implementation, feasibility, ethics, and equity. The ministry then reviews these recommendations in the context of all of our health system priorities. I'll also mention that there is a program, one moment here while I find that's it, right up, sorry, where is that? That was the, oh, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chair. So right now, further on RSV prevention, there is a program for high-risk infants. Now, it's not a vaccine per se. It's a slightly different program, but it's to prevent RSV. And it's available through a program that's managed by the Provincial Health Services Authority. It's run by the BC Children's Hospital. And again, this is one way of providing this kind of health care for high-risk infants in particular. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Minister. The Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The HPV vaccine is proven to prevent cervical cancer and can be effective at preventing multiple types of cancer at any age. However, public funding for vaccinations only cover those under the age of 18. Why are those who are unable to receive the vaccine in school not allowed access to free HPV vaccination after the age of 18?
The Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you again to the member for the question, specifically around HPV vaccination. And I'll start off by saying that BC truly is a world leader in preventing cervical cancer, and by continuing the efforts that we are making in increasing opportunities for human papillomavirus or HPV vaccinations, and this is part of our 10-year cancer action plan. The most effective way to help prevent cervical cancer is by being vaccinated against HPV, and the vaccine is offered for free, and as the member indicated, in schools. It's offered for free starting with any students in grade 6 through school-based immunization clinics. But in addition, it is also offered in schools to students in grade 7, 8, and 9 who might have missed their grade 6 immunization, and it provides an additional opportunity for youth to be vaccinated. Now, in fall 2023, a year and a half ago, to further broaden protection from HPV and the cancers that it can cause, we further expanded the eligibility to include males born in 2005. And this means that beyond school-based immunization groups, that BC has now moved to a publicly funded HPV immunization program for anybody aged 9 to 18, and for special populations aged 19 to 26, like people who are HIV positive or living with HIV, two-spirit, transgender and non-binary, and cisgender men who have sex with men or who are street involved. It is important always that we review the program itself, and so we are currently reviewing changes to the publicly funded HPV vaccine schedule and the eligibility for people. And again, this is in alignment with recommendations that come forward from Canada's National Advisory Committee on Immunization and with our own provincial immunization and public health experts. So we're going to continue to review international and national recommendations as they relate to HPV vaccine use and eligibility, and we want to make sure again that BC is staying current with evidence-informed best practices. For anybody who is out there listening to this, beyond us in the room here, really important you can always speak with your primary care provider about your own eligibility for this vaccine, and we'll continue to review and monitor this program, and I appreciate the question from the member. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Minister. Recognizing the Leader of the third party.
Thank you. The Society for Advocacy for Gender-Affirming Healthcare is calling on the government to do more to offer comprehensive gender-affirming care for the trans and non-binary people of British Columbia. Many trans and non-binary people in BC are often faced with unequal access to the healthcare services they need, which can increase issues with mental health. Equitable access to gender-affirming care has been shown to reduce the risk of suicide among trans people, yet the majority of gender-affirming care services are not covered under our public health care. MSP coverage for a critical gender-affirming care procedure for trans women is limited to, quote, genetic females only. Last September, the government announced it will be covering hormonal replacement therapy medications to treat symptoms of menopause, which many trans women also use for gender-affirming care. Unfortunately, the majority of hormone replacement therapy medications are still not covered. Will the minister explain if they intend to increase access to HRT medications for gender-affirming care?
The Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First of all, I just want to say that I really appreciate the question, and I want to acknowledge that there are gaps to address in healthcare services that are experienced by women, trans, and non-binary people, and our government is fully committed to continuing to do everything that we can to fill those gaps. I will mention two brief points. In December 2023, the ministry approved changes in coverage of medications, including transdermal estrogen and transdermal testosterone, to enable more equitable and accessible coverage of gender-affirming pharmacotherapies. Also, we are actively working to address calls to action to directly address these gaps, as I'm speaking about, on gender-affirming care for children and youth, and that call to action has come from the representative of children and youth in their report in June 2023. Noting the time, what I would do is offer a briefing on this subject and the opportunity to meet with ministry staff for the members opposite and discuss this in further. Really appreciate the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Leader of the third party.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I have permission to ask one more question and then ask for a written response, given that I understand we're short on time? I had one last question.
Please do.
Yeah. Here in BC, we have a company based in Port Coquitlam, Vitacor, that is making world-class N95 and N99 respirators. This company is also leading with technology and capacity to recycle personal protective equipment, making it possible to significantly reduce hospital and healthcare waste. Currently, Vitacor is collecting PPE for recycling from some hospitals in BC, diverting a significant amount of waste from landfills and creating the basic materials for recycled products. Can the Minister provide an update on the timeline for the expansion of the Vitacor PPE recycling program in hospitals in BC? And with that, I will thank the Minister and the House.
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, accept the question. We'll take it on notice and provide a response to the member. And I know that we're coming to the close. I just want to take a brief moment to express my gratitude to all the members who asked questions throughout the last 26 or 27 hours of estimates of the Ministry of Health. But in particular, I want to thank the staff who have supported me, many different members of the public service who are professional, dedicated people who are so committed to increasing and strengthening BC's healthcare system and serving the people of British Columbia. That includes the public servants behind me and in the Maple Room, behind this room, and my staff from the Minister's office who've joined us in the gallery today. So I want to express my deep appreciation for everybody for a successful round of estimates. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. Seeing no further questions or speakers, the question before this House is vote 32, of course. Shall vote 32 pass? Aye. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, members. Minister of Finance.
Mr. Commissioner. Honourable Chair, I move that the committee rise and report resolution of the estimates of the Ministry of Health and ask leave to sit again.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. This committee will stand adjourned.
Committee Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Committee of Supply, Section B, reports resolution and completion of the estimates of Ministry of Health and asks leave to sit again.
When shall the committee sit again, Acting Government House Leader?
At next sitting.
So ordered. Committee Chair.
Mr. Speaker, Committee of Supply, Section A, reports progress on the estimates of the Ministry of Forests and asks leave to sit again.
When shall the committee sit again, Government House Leader?
At next sitting.
So ordered. Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before the House adjourns, I'd like to clarify for the benefit of members that the motion adopted earlier this morning that the House stand adjourned until Monday, April 14th, takes effect later today at daily adjournment as Standing Order 2, Sub 2, Sub B, references the week of Good Friday. With that, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Members, you heard the question to adjourn the House. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. This House stands adjourned until 1 p.m. today.